Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to Watch You Want. Thanks for logging on. Now, when I do these watch showcases, I've always got a lot to say about the watches because each one has a story to tell. Every worthwhile watch that we would bring in and represent to our clients at Watch You Want is something that's special, upscale, and has a fantastic backstory involving people, places, engineering, and craft arts. But this Kobold Soarway Diver in stainless steel 43.5 millimeters is the kind of watch that has me wondering how I'm going to keep the review under 20 minutes because the people, the places, and the craft that inform it are just so fascinating with so much to tell in terms of stories, inspiration, fascinating anecdotes that I really have to try to stay as focused as possible here. So bear with me. I'm going to try to keep this on point and talk about the watch itself. But you can't talk about Kobold watches without talking about Michael Kobold. Entrepreneur, adventurer, craftsman, tool manufacturer. He's also friends with a lot of cool people, and he's collaborated with folks ranging from the actor James Gandolfini to adventurer and outdoorsman Ralph Fiennes to Gerd Rudiger Lang, the founder of Swiss and watchmaker extraordinaire, to create his Kobold watches. And the story of this one in particular goes back to 1998 when Michael Kobold was a student at Carnegie Mellon University, and Kobold watches was actually a research project and an entrepreneurial proposal paper that he started proposing watches made in the United States. At the time it was suggested it might make a fun hobby, but today, 2015, it's actually a thriving business and part of the root of a emerging American horology industry built around companies like RGM for high horology in Pennsylvania, for more affordable watches, Shinola in Detroit, and right in the middle, Kobold, making high-end, highly rugged, high durability, American-assembled sports watches in Pennsylvania. And it does seem like Pennsylvania, between RGM and Kobold, is kind of the cradle of neo-American horology. It's a great movement, and the substance is there. Now, the history of this company dates back to 1998, but the history of this watch really stretches back to 2003. I'm going to put this on my wrist now and move to the talk of where the case came from, because the case, and you can see the fit on my 6 1/3 inch 16 centimeter wrist, emerged in 2003 as a result of a design study by Michael Kobold and his collaborators to create the most rugged, watertight, and all-around versatile case for the money that they could possibly manufacture in the United States using domestic facilities and domestic talent. The Soarway case emerged with a screw-down crown, a robust screw-down caseback, big blocky, tight conforming lugs that make this 43.5 millimeter watch fit quite comfortably on my 6 1/3 inch 16 centimeter wrist. It also has a very robust, very precisely detented, very, if I may say, industrial looking, but ergonomically perfect, functionally outstanding bezel. This watch is a machine for doing a job. That doesn't mean it's not beautiful. That doesn't mean it doesn't embody traditional craft excellence in the horological sense as a product of traditional watchmaking. But this sort of harks back to what the pioneering Panerai dive watches, the Rolex of the mid-20th century, old Tudor Snowflake Submariners, Blancpain 50 Fathoms. If you can imagine that sort of no-nonsense, into harm's way professional instrument watch, that's what this Kobold Soarway Diver feels like. Now, this model, which was introduced in 2013, represents some of the latest production from Kobold's Pennsylvania workshop. It does have a Swiss movement inside. It's based on the fine and thin ETA 2892A2. That's the thinner and finer of the two primary ETA movements. Auto winding. Many of these watches can be tuned to chronometer levels of accuracy with little difficulty, which speaks to the basic quality of the movement used. They're also phenomenally rugged. I know because I own one of these movements in an old Omega Seamaster, and having crashed it into the ground at 20 miles an hour on a bike, it was still ticking even when I practically wasn't. So Michael Kobold definitely picked the right motor for his machine. Now externally you can see everything about this watch is just that, machine-like. The machine ethic, the straight-grained, brushed treatment of the case. Not linear as you often see in Swiss watches, but vertical. The way the case flows seamlessly, with the exception of that one distinct joint, straight into these burly, multifaceted, but sharply defined lugs, They are sharply faceted, sharply defined, but supremely comfortable on the wrist. A tool still has to be ergonomically correct, especially if you're going to be wearing it under duress. But because duress is a consideration, you can see this bracelet is retained by screwed-in pins. There is no spring pin here. This is a luxury watch, but it's not a dainty watch, although it may take a little bit more effort and a specialized tool to remove the bracelet if you wanted to, for instance, fit a different one, resize it if you wanted to fit a NATO strap. The bottom line is, if you want the utmost in security, a screw is still the way to go. Michael Kobold knows that. Quality is designed in. So the bottom line is, quality is evident in the heft, in the blocky forms, in the substance, in the economical crown guards that completely shields the crown, yet take up surprisingly little space on the case flank. This isn't here for show. This is here first and foremost for function, and it's pared down for a reason. And that's just emblematic of the design ethic that informs this watch. You can also see that the bracelet itself is extremely rugged. Finely finished, but not superfluously finished. This has the traditional all-brushed aesthetic that you see on older Rolex Oyster bracelets. No polish, no pretense of, black tie fashion, no attempt to basically fit in with the runway crowd. This is a watch designed first and foremost for guys who are going to use it in the same kind of environments where you might use one of Michael Kobold's survival knives. Out in the wilderness, on a camping trip, on a fishing trip, you can absolutely get bass guts on this without any feelings of guilt. And just to remind you that that's an option, Michael Kobold built in this little nautical appurtenance, a beautiful machined dive extension, outstanding for use over a wetsuit. Having owned a watch with this feature in the far north up in New Hampshire, I can also tell you that it's fantastic for fitting over a winter coat, and being as Kobold is based down in Pennsylvania, where you may have noticed they had some fearsome winter weather this year, it's quite useful if you do live in chilly climes and never plan to don a wetsuit or a bathing suit for that matter. A great feature to have, really adds value, closes like a bank vault, very crisp. Everything about this watch exudes quality. No nonsense, but quality. If there is a little bit of a nod and a wink, a sense of humor and a playful gesture from Michael Kobold & Co., it's in this beautiful metallic Soleil blue dial with a little shock of orange in the seconds hand and the Soarway Diver marquee. A beautiful thing to behold. I think this really shows you that the people who designed this watch love horology and they love watches, because while you have that machine aesthetic, here and here alone do you find an explicit tribute to beauty in watchmaking. And inasmuch as it's shielded under an extra thick domed sapphire, it's encapsulated and protected. If you're going to make just one gorgeous aesthetic gesture, it may as well be the dial, because the dial really is the window to the soul of a watch. And Kobold absolutely nails it, both aesthetically and functionally, as everything here, including the entire hour and minute hand, completely loomed, beautifully, basically beautifully treated with a subtle three-tone. You have the white, almost light lime of the Luminova indexes and hands, those shocks of orange, and of course that beautiful Soleil dial. It also advertises 500 meters of water resistance, so you can go basically any place that doesn't involve a dive bell. This is an outstanding American-made watch. If you're looking for something to wear on the 4th of July, look no farther. This Kobold Soarway Diver, 43.5 millimeters in stainless steel, is the watch you want.